Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, you guys see the title, we're doing a look inspired by the Cremated palette from Jeffree Star Cosmetics. It launched and within 20 minutes it sold out. I did actually get one and it is on its way right now. So I will be doing a full review demo tutorial on that palette specifically. But I did want to come to you guys and make a video for those of you who might not have gotten the palette, whether it is hard financial times and you couldn't afford it, or it sold out too fast and you couldn't get it. Whatever the reason, if you didn't get it, you can still get a super beautiful, silvery, black, smoky eye without using that palette at all. For today's video, I did use the Sultry palette from Anastasia, and I really focused on these three shades right here, a black, a gray, and a silver. I did take a little bit of like Twig, which is a beigey gray, grayish, if you will, and this like bone color here, just for some added definition, all of which are available in that palette. So if you want to look like this and you did get the palette, you can easily recreate this. And if you didn't get the palette, you can totally use something in your collection to get something that honestly, I don't think someone would go on the street and be like, that's not the Jeffree Star palette. They couldn't tell. It's a gray, smoky eye with a silver lid. So if you want to see how we got this today, make sure to keep on watching. And please don't forget to subscribe because I do upload 3 times a week. And that's going to be the best way to stay up to date on all the fun stuff I'm posting. So if you want to see how we got this silvery black, smoky eye that I did pair with like an old Hollywood red lip, stay tuned. Alright, so I did already prime my lids, and I used the concealer in my Beauty For Real MVP, the one that comes in the cap, as an eye base, and set it with a light amount of powder. For today's video, because, again, you guys saw the intro, I am still waiting on my palette to arrive, I will be using the Anastasia Beverly Hills Sultry palette, specifically the black, gray, shimmering silver, and the whitey and taupey shade, all of which can be found in the Cremated palette. I did want to make sure that we did something you can use out of that palette, but for those of you who aren't getting it, or for one reason or another weren't able to get it because I know it was very limited, you can still do a look very similar and very Cremated inspired. So I'm going to zoom you guys in. So I'm going to start off with a packer brush, and I'm going to jump into Slate, which is it's almost a neutral gray. I don't think it has a lot of like blue or green or gray beige undertones. It is just a gray. And I'm going to start by mapping out. So I'm going to gently run that in my crease just to set down a shape. And then once I feel like I have that shape down, I'm going to take a tiny bit more product and build it up. What I am going to do is I'm going to keep kind of slowly building that up until I find that I have a decent amount of smoke, because this is going to be a pretty smoky eye today. And then on a fluffy brush, I'm going to go into Twig, which is a little more of a beigey gray. And I'm going to take a small amount of that, and I'm just going to blend up on the crease, just to give us some definition. Taking a touch more of that gray, I'm going to pull it closer to my lash line and start to feather it towards the center of my lid. Alright, I'm going to go through this on this eye, and then I'll be back for the next step. Okay, now on that same fluffy brush, I'm going to take a little bit of Fresh, which is a very soft white, and I'm going to take that above, just under the brow, just to soften those edges a little bit. Then going back into that other brush, I'm going to finally dip into Noir, the black tone in the palette. And, ooh, got a lot. I'm going to take a small amount of that, hopefully a small, and I'm going to gently start to pull that into the crease, and only concentrating that on the outer V of the eye. By building the black up slowly, you'll get that nice smoky effect without it getting overwhelming. Tapping into a tiny bit more of that gray, I'm just going to feather that on the center of the lid to make sure that black is blended. So that way when we put down our metallic shade, everything is perfected. Alright, now that we've got that smoky vibe, I'm going to go in with that same first brush and just blend out the crease and the edges. We want to make sure everything looks cute. Alright, grabbing a tiny little detail, well not super tiny, but a small brush, I'm going to take a little bit more of that black. And I'm just going to pull it just in the very outer area of the eye. I want it to be super precise, really just building up a little bit of that black at a time. I know it's not looking like it's super pigmented, but that's just because of how little pressure I'm putting on the eye. I'm going in super light because I want to make sure that it doesn't go anywhere I don't want it to. And the fastest way to mess up an eye look with black eyeshadow is to use too much too quickly. And you see how I brought it up a little bit more? That way, when my eyes are open, because my eyes are a little more hooded, you can still see them. Going back into the crease brush, it looks like there's product on here, but I'm not adding anything else. It's actually a mostly clean brush. And I'm just going to blend once again. That's going to be your trick to making palettes like the Cremated palette or any of these black and gray eye looks work. And that's going to be making sure you take the time to blend them so they don't get muddy. And since we're starting to get muddy, we're going to slow down a little bit. I'm going to grab a brush. This is like a packer brush. And I'm going to take the silvery shade Cyborg because it is a beautiful, cool toned silver. I'm going to grab a little bit of a setting spray just to make sure that we get as much pigment adherence as possible. And we're going to pull that across the lid. Taking a little bit more of that same shade Dry, I'm just going to pack that over the wet shade and pull it a little bit further on the eye over the black and the gray. See how that's already starting to come together more? Trust the process. Now that that's on, I'm going to take that blending brush just over the crease to make sure that there is no harsh edge where that metallic starts. Then I'm going to take that crease brush with a little bit more of the gray to start, and I'm going to blend the gray over where that metallic meets the gray and the black on the outer corner. Then going back into that baby brush again, I'm going to take the black shade and I'm just going to lightly add a little bit of black, blend it into the outer portion of the eye around the gray, just to build up that definition. Now that we have that blended in a bit more, I'm going to take a tiny bit more of the silver and just blend it a little bit more into the eye. We do want to make sure that it really pops. One more time into that baby brush, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a little bit of gray with whatever black is left on the brush, and I'm just going to lightly trace that into the crease. This is just going to help the eye to appear a little bit more rounded. This is an old school drag queen technique. Not that I'm a drag queen, not that that's what I do, but an old school drag queen technique just to enhance the shape of the eye. See how that just gives you that roundedness, which makes the crease pop even more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a tiny bit more of that silver and spray it with my setting spray one last time just to really layer it up and intensify it. I want to make sure that it is the statement of the eye, really concentrating it on the inner portion. Back into Fresh, that light shade. I'm just gonna, once again, blend all of those edges to make sure everything is nice and clean. Alright, I'm gonna go throw on mascara and lashes, put on my base, and I'll be back to finish up the eyes. Okay, so I tied up most of the face, threw on a quick lash, and what I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw a black liner in the waterline. Of course, the second I say I'm going to do black liner, I don't have it in front of me. I'm going to use Black Magic from Beauty For Real. And I'm really going to take this pretty tight to the waterline. You guys know normally when I do a black liner, like I will take it all the way around my eye. Today, I'm just putting it in the waterline. And then once I get to the outer portion of the eye, I'm going to take it down just a tiny bit. But for the most part, it is just hugging the eye. Grabbing a pencil brush, I'm going to start with the same gray shade we've basically been using for everything. And I'm just going to trace that around the black. I'm not really smudging just yet. And then once I get to the outer portion, I'm going to take that same gray and then I'm going to smudge it a little bit. What I love most about this liner is you get about 15 seconds of playtime and then it sets. Switching to the fluffy brush from earlier, just going to buff around the entire thing. Then grabbing another Beauty For Real liner. This one is the shade Totally Titanium. It is a super vibrant silver. I'm going to trace this around the inner corner and towards the waterline. Now normally you guys know I super diffuse the inner corner. Today, all I'm going to do is grab that same pencil brush and I'm only going to diffuse where the silver meets the gray on the lower lash. I am going to keep it pretty tight to the inner corner. And now that the shape is where we want it, I'm going to take like so little of the black, like a tiny bit on the tip of the brush, and I'm just going to add a little bit of extra smokiness just to the outermost portion of the lower lash, connecting it to the upper lid. I'm using such a small amount, and just like before, fluffy blending brush, just to diffuse it a little bit more. All right, I think because the eyes are so cool tone, I'm gonna go for like a super old, like Hollywood red. So I'm gonna go throw on a lipstick and I'll be right back. Okay, so the lip is on. Today I stacked the Jeffree Star Velour Liquid Lipstick in the shade Red Rum with a little bit of the Light My Fire lip gloss from Beauty For Real. That is the Glossy Magic that is currently on my lips. Anyway, that is the finished look. Honestly, it feels so like old Hollywood. I love it. Like I said in the intro, if you guys didn't get the Cremated palette, this is definitely a very similar vibe that you can get without using that palette. And I used an old palette from my collection. The Sultry palette is an old school fave of mine. And you can use any gray, black, and neutral tone shade to achieve a look just like this, whether you got the palette or not. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!